nowadays, for sure. When I was younger, I didn't understand it. It's hard to comprehend because I didn't have what most would consider a traumatizing childhood. So my depression, it was weird to me. It was foreign. I didn't understand what I was dealing. So now that I'm older and it's becoming more of a comfortable, it's more of an open topic now. So now I finally acknowledge it, and being a first-time mom definitely helps even more because now I have the postpartum that also is added on to what I normally consider depression. So it's a little bit easier to deal with, so it's easier to accept, and it's easier to acknowledge. Yeah. It feels like you're alone, and it's funny because your mind, it's weird, like your mind will tell you that you're not, that you know that there's people in the world that deal with things on a more regular level, like a more frequent level, not regular, but more frequently. They have constant or chronic, anxiety or depression, and I only go through it in phases, but I still feel like I'm the only one when I'm in it. I still feel like I'm alone. No. The idea of having a counselor is kind of not, it doesn't appeal to me. I feel like, why do I talk about my problems to this person who doesn't know me? Again, it's another one of those, like, doors are really opening and people are expressing more, that they have, counselors and psychologists that they go see, and they say how therapy really helps them. And so I feel like it's one of those, like, if you really want to better yourself, you have to be willing to try everything at least once, to see when you come out of it, do you feel like a little bit of the weight is lifted? Something that even though you might have thought made sense, like you get more clarity on it, then you gain from it. And life is all about progression. And then because I have a Christian background, I pray. And honestly, say what you want, but every time I throw the name Jesus into a prayer, oh my goodness, I wake up with such a light mind and heart, and it's a great feeling. Time heals all wounds. Mind dumping. I have to take everything that I'm thinking about or feeling, and I have to pour it into different outlets. Physical contact with my husband, like cuddling, hugging, like I just need a long hug. And speaking to my designated therapist, my best friend. She has so much wisdom that she'll just sit and listen to me. So I kind of pour into her a little bit. I have this thing I do where I call it random scribes, where I'll just, write until your hand cramps up or you can't think of anything else. And even when your mind is blank and you're like, but you're still thinking and feeling something, just keep going. I literally write, just keep going until I have a new thought. And those things tend to help a lot. Singing. I know I'm coming out of a dark phase when I start to sing about things, and when I just start to sing randomly. So it's all like a procedure. It's all steps. It's never just one solid thing that gets me to come out of it. And depending on what triggered it, that's what determines how long I stay in the moment of depression, and how quickly I get out, and what outlets I need to do to get out of it. Kind of working on that, actually. A lot of it, I think, stems from me always being curious and me always having to learn the hard way. And my parents, they had really, really strong Christian values. And so a lot of things that I was curious about, or I think things that would have kind of helped how I cope and deal with things, would have been a lot easier now had they been more open and communicated with me. And I'm aware that there are certain things of the world that are age appropriate information, but my parents really just did not open up with me. And I think that triggered just like the need to find love and information in other places that became very unhealthy and had a lot of things negatively attached to them. And I think I soaked up a lot of that. And so processing things now, I do a lot of deflecting. I do a lot of, my husband does one thing that irritates me, and all of a sudden, like, I just think about everything that he's ever done that has just made me just feel like I'm not enough, or that I'm in this alone. And then that triggers thoughts of past relationships and my relationships with family, and it's always just a chain effect. It's like it's like a domino effect. As soon as one thing gets brought to my attention, because a lot of things are in our subconscious. You don't think about it, you're not feeling it until, you know, you hear a certain song or you see a certain color or a certain outfit, and all of a sudden a memory comes back. And I think right now what a lot of my depression is, what it stems from these days is the postpartum, is realizing like I don't have the freedom that I had before I had my daughter. I don't have the liberty to just go places and be who I want to be, because now I have to make sure that even if I stay true to self, I'm not allowed to be irresponsible and just try new things outside of reason anymore. I have to be reasonable. I have to think. I have to have a plan, because I am now an example for somebody. It's not just other peers watching me who are grown enough to make their own decisions. This is an innocent child that I'm now responsible to be pouring into, and that comes with so much pressure that you don't realize, because everybody has a mom. Everybody, you know, you see so many moms in the world until you become one. Now the weight of that responsibility just weighs on you so much heavier, and that's a really big trigger for, I think, a lot of women, a lot of mothers, because it's like, and I'm blessed to have a partner, but he has moments where I feel like I am doing this alone, and that's very frustrating. And that triggers a lot of resentment towards my parents, because their marriage failed, and I feel like they didn't communicate through their marriage, and they didn't communicate with us as children. And that was one of those things where I felt like if they were just more open about things, I would have a better understanding of how to deal with how I move in my marriage and my other relationships. So that's like the main thing that I can go to for my roots of depression, for sure.
Times being alone, being separated from self, and not being able to express myself sometimes in the best ways.
What makes life hard?
Not being too sure sometimes. Just really holding on to a glare of good possibility. Keeping your mind still and always remembering that everything you are doing at this moment is great. Just trying to stay fresh within self and focus. It's easy to get distracted by your thoughts, I guess you could say. It's all about like just perfecting patterns within your mind, because they come and they go, and just staying focused on positive ones that can bring enlightenment. Having relations with people, with friends, trying to just laugh, stay positive.
How do you usually know when you're afraid?
Discombobulated, anxious, not fresh and happy. Anxious will be the worst part, I would say. That goes along with heavy breathing that you just have to control. So I always get to overcome it, just the deep breath. Yeah, writing helps. Writing it basically lets me have a good visual of it. What's really the problem? What really the problem could be. And then through the process, I might write an uplifting story for myself, or just write a situation of me sitting in it and going through it. And in the end, just reading it or writing it, it's like a recording in my brain just to let me know that it's all gonna be fine. Foremost, I have a tribe of feminine that helps me with it. But first and foremost, I try to always remember that it is myself. The friends that I've grown to love, very kindred spirits that understand. I probably went through same exact pains, just in different forms. I listen, they listen, becomes a real heart to heart. And heart to heart is healing.
My depression is really heavy, but it's still, what is that like term when like it's something addict? Like some addicts are like, dang, like it's still work. Like I can still work with my depression, you know, like work through it.
Functional?
Functional. There we go. I'm a functional depressive. Like I could just be out here shining light, but still not necessarily feel 100% within myself. My depression has just been normalized for me. Like I've never really saw life without it. So it's just been life though, you know, like I feel like in a way my whole life I've been depressed, but I've always had this innate like passion and love that just kept my drive going. And I would do what I'm doing now is doing my part by addressing what's wrong with me, or not wrong, but addressing what I feel needs to be more balanced within myself in order to show love, you know, and kind of just be a better support system for everyone that's around me. And for me in this present moment, I think like I recently deactivated all my social media. Like I'm not on social media anymore. I think I'm on like day 3 and it feels amazing. So it's also holding myself accountable and seeing what triggers are triggering my depression in order for my experience with others to be at its best. Just because I feel like as I've grown, my depression has not only been functional, but it's been a little bit more transparent. So, like I feel like back in the day, I could be like, yeah, I'm good, and people believe me. But nowadays, people don't believe me. Like they will feel it, and I'm not necessarily around a lot of people who wants to dig in. That's because I think I have a very intimidating or just strong energy that, in a sense, I remember expressing to my sis that like, I feel like I've been the poster child of growth in a sense for a lot of people, and people see me and they admire my growth, but they don't want any parts. Like they don't want to like be a part of the growth or see how I'm growing. Like they just kind of be like, good for you, you're growing. But like they kind of like back up because I don't know what my growth looks like or feels like. I only know what that feels like to me and not to other people. But I just found that once I felt like that, like once I felt kind of like a open book in a sense, and I'm trying to tie this with the question, my role or just like how I functioned around like if everyone was depressed, would be just like taking care of self first in order for that like inner vibration to just kind of like be contagious to like other people in a sense. And then I also need to stop worrying about other people. Like that's been something that I've been plagued with. I remember writing recently that it felt like a curse, me worrying about other people and their depression, but I don't know if that answers the question. But what would I do if everybody was depressed? Do the same thing that I'm doing right now. It's just kind of like making sure that I'm growing in order to, because I'm still also like a very collective conscious person. So I know once I've healed myself, like we were talking about, like I'll not only heal myself, but my mom and my brother, everybody. It'll be a ripple effect. So I think that's how I'm gonna end it. Yes. For sure. I can't wait to have a DJ gig sometimes when I'm depressed because When I DJ, that is my meditation. As a form, it's definitely top 3 right now of meditations. I said this to my mom the other day, and I think it scared her. If it wasn't for creativity, I would have been killed myself. Cause if there were every day when I'm waking up and I'm aware of things that I worry about or I fear, music has saved me, putting on music and just kind of like tuning in, trying to quiet out the voices that might be in my head. Music, yoga. I mean, yoga is creative to me. I really think yoga has definitely saved my life. Yoga has definitely been one of those sources of change and inspiration, because you just learn so much about that mind-body connection and how your body even holds your pain. Because oftentimes, like, it's been very interesting to me to think about the mind being different than the body, but they are 2 different entities. And once my depression, which I'm a very mind depressive, like more so just like I'm an overthinker. I don't know if that resonates with everyone else's depression, but my overthinking can literally drive me insane. So if I don't like physically get up, and I used to be an athlete, so I'll like usually in New York, like I would feel so ill at like midnight and have to go for like a midnight run. And my mom is like, midnight run again? And I'm like, yeah, and it was kind of like a routine that I had that really showed me that I just really need to exercise my creativity in these very physical ways. I'm a very physical person, so even with passion, like if I really love you, I'm like, hugging up on you, rubbing your back or anything like that. So I'm a very, like I have to stretch, not only my mind, but also my body. So I definitely exercise when I'm depressed. I feel like everyone does ultimately, like either you're exercising your physical self or you're exercising your mind, or even exercising your free will of knowing that, okay, right now I'm in a deep space. I need to get a mentor. I need to get a psychiatrist. I need to get somebody to talk to. So I think, yeah. If I didn't tell them, I think that they assumed. Especially since I don't really keep it a secret that, of course, that my father passed away when I was 12. So with that, kind of being a seed of despair, in a sense, for even just a lot of people in society, if someone dies, you're sad. I just don't think that they know or knew of how I dealt with it. So they knew that I was depressed or could have been depressed, but I don't think they know of the process of how I've dealt with it. And I think right now that's something that's unraveling, and I'm being a little bit more transparent, especially with my mom, on how I dealt with my depression. And I find that it's just important because when you hold things in and aren't able to share, that ultimately cultivates a level of shame and guilt on any type of level. And that's oddly how I kind of started to feel like, why am I so depressed, about this? And why this, why that? Yeah, I believe that my friends definitely know more. Especially the ones that have been, my rocks for a while. And I also can say that, not a lot of people could handle it, in a sense. So I've lost, actually, I feel I've personally lost a lot of friends due to my depression, which is also okay, because everybody is not supposed to handle your shit. So, that helps it filter out. But I definitely believe that everyone knew. And then it's funny, I was reflecting on this recently because I did deactivate my Facebook and stuff, and then it started to, I started to think, like, what have I shared? Like, what are things that I'm sharing, or why do I feel like I have to do this? Why do I feel like I have to deactivate? How am I oversharing? Because obviously I feel some type of depletion of energy of sorts. And I remember being in high school when my father passed away, and kind of just like writing these very like extreme statuses, right? And I didn't know that they were too extreme, but I was just kind of just sharing. Like, my mom didn't even really call me like every day. Like, I have an older brother. He didn't call me at all. So I felt like, and that was when Facebook was was becoming more popular. And I think was just releasing out on that. And I think that social media has that relationship with me in a sense of like, social media. So I'm going to be social through this, but I think I became a little bit too social. I think I became a little bit too dependent on not even actually being transparent and being like, family, friends, I need help, or family, friends, this is what I'm feeling, but just being kind of cody and mysterious and kind of like, you know, a call for help in a way that I either got sometimes or I didn't get at all. And I don't think that's actually like pretty healthy. But those are ways on how I've shared and have been transparent with my depression. But I'm becoming a little bit more transparent, especially just with my community and my collective, just because like as you share, you don't know who else you can like heal and yes, actually. Not as a family, but my mom had us going to a psychologist, psychiatrist. I always forget like which one or whatever is the better term or the right term. But we went to a family mediator, I guess, growing up, just because I actually really don't know why. If I close my eyes and I try to visualize what the theme was, a lot of it was centered around my brother and I. Like, we never really got along, which, by the way, he recently confessed in a sense that when he was younger, he didn't like dark-skinned people. Because my brother is actually, like, kind of Sharita's color. Like, he's total opposite than I am. So that kind of made him just self-hate, you know, self-hate. And he treated me like that. He hated me. So it was a lot of that. Like, why don't you, you know, like, talk to your brother this way? Why do you talk to your sister this way? But I actually think it started after my grandmother passed away. And we were really close with our grandmother. So I think maybe that was my mom's way of highlighting, like, mental health for us. But we actually never really came together as a family and actually talked about our feelings. I actually often felt like my feelings were ignored in a sense. So, yeah. Now we definitely are, just because I'm a little bit more confident in who I am as a person and what I provide. So even with my mom, you know, I'll ask her, how you doing today? And she'll just say good. And I'm like, well, no, I'm going to challenge you to give me 3 more adjectives to like explain how you truly are feeling in the present. And even with my brother, who is somebody that we had to really build our self-trust for each other. He recently told me something was wrong with my niece, and he actually was listening to the spiritual connections of what she may be feeling in her body and what that may be connected to. So I think they're a little bit more comfortable with talking about mental health, but we actually haven't come together as a collective. So let's see holiday season 2018 to see how that works out. But that's basically how that conversation is built.
Scenery without routine, with deep breaths, without deadline, with reflections, without urgency, with kisses, without insecurity, with spontaneity, without worry. There is no road paved. Cry about it, scream, cry again, then be fed up enough to want it. Now, go create it.